Well, this is not good. Folks, we've got some urgent breaking information here about the future of employment, specifically and particularly if you are an Amazon employee, you work for Amazon, and more so importantly, if you work at a Amazon warehouse distribution center. And we know that last year, at the end of last year, the Jeff Bezos founded Amazon, online e-commerce retail giant. They made an announcement, 10,000 employees were going to lose their jobs. Well, urgent warning, folks, that announcement was later escalated to 20,000. And I think they kind of settled down at 18,000. But if you do the math of how many employees actually no longer work for the company over, I believe, the course of the year, the number was closer to 80 to 90 to almost 100,000 workers that no longer work for the company, and they didn't rehire. So they planned and prepared to do the unthinkable, which was wiping out 20,000 jobs at one point, but ultimately executed on eliminating almost 100,000 paychecks. Okay. And this, folks, is where it gets really troubling, because Amazon has just announced how they plan to do that again, how they plan to do it more, and who's up next on the chopping block. And you can see here, it says Amazon tells Minnesota that it will shut down one of its warehouses, the Shakopee Center. And it says they're laying off 680 employees. 680 workers are going to be out of a job, out of a paycheck. This is just a few days ago that this was published. But as we get into this, I'm going to explain to you what Amazon is actually telling by this headline and the contents of this article as far as their future plans moving forward. Whereas we already saw last year, 10,000 moved to 20,000. Which ultimately was closer to 100,000. So this one shutdown of this plant, of this center, of this warehouse, this one shutdown is more than likely going to be multiplied across the board. And they clearly reveal who is most vulnerable and who's at risk of losing it all and being wiped out with this wave of shutdowns that Amazon is potentially planning to execute on. So let's just get right into it. Retail giant Amazon told state officials Monday it will shut down a sort center complex in Shakopee and lay off 680 employees at the facility effective March 31st. Good news, bad news. Bad news first. The bad news is you're out of a job. The good news is they gave you a warning and you have until March 31st to ultimately find a replacement source of income, maybe put in for a transfer, whatever it may be. Get your affairs in order by March 31st. It says here that we are always evaluating our network to make sure it fits our business needs and to improve the experience for our employees, our customers, partners, and drivers. And this is according to Steve Kelly, public relations manager for Amazon. And as part of that effort, we may close older sites. Folks, older sites. So think about it. If you work at Amazon as an Amazon warehouse worker, or maybe even a corporate employee, whatever your role may be, if you're tied to an older site, which what does older site mean? Because today, everybody wants the latest and greatest. So older site could mean 3 years old, 4 years old, maybe less. The way that they're building and tearing down and replacing and upgrading. Workers at Amazon's fulfillment center have held walkouts and demonstrations in recent years, asking for improved working conditions and exploring unionization efforts, according to Kelly. And Kelly says that the closure of the nearby sort center had nothing to do with those factors. You better believe it had everything to do with those factors, okay? At least to some degree, it was a consideration, as they're going to get what they want. Remember, folks, I told you, they consider us all to be losers in a game that we don't even have the ability to play. They play, they win, we lose. At the end of the day, If they don't want you to be a union, if they don't want you to be unionized, if they don't want it, granted, there are laws against what they can and cannot do as retaliation, but there are also ways to circumvent the system, somewhat of a distraction or diversion from what they're actually trying to execute on, which would be to eliminate some of these workers, some of these folks that think that they're going to go out here and unionize and run the show. Amazon's like, nah, bruh, hold up. We're going to shut this joker down. Y'all going to be out of a job. In the spring, the upstart Amazon labor union won the right to represent some 8,000 workers at the massive New York warehouse. So when they saw that happening in New York, they were like, look, we're not about to let this happen here in Minnesota. They're not going to let it happen anywhere. Okay. They run the show and they're going to let you guys know that. Okay. And this is literally like a warning shot. And if you think that you're going to be able to unionize, then you may think about finding a new job or getting in the unemployment line, one or the other. Now, check this out. Safia Ibrahim, and she said she has worked at the closing facility for 7 years and most recently as a scanner. Okay. And she said she liked working at the facility despite dealing with some bad managers. Guys, comment down below if you ever had to work with or if you're working for a bad manager now. I can only imagine. I've been in that role before. I'll never do it again. Not as a bad manager, but as an employee underneath a bad manager, bad management. The worst part about it was the knowledge of knowing that they were making more money than me and doing a terrible job. The first job I started in the United States was here at Amazon. And she says she won't like missing the job or not going to work because she feels as though it's like her home. Man, Jeff Bezos, come on, help her out. Now, she said she's speaking out for many of the other East African and Somalian women that she works with at the facility. Interesting. And she says that I can't afford to go somewhere far away. And that's what these jobs do. This is what these closures and these shutdowns and these layoffs and these furloughs, like FedEx with their recent announcement of furloughs. They're not only destroying income, they're destroying savings, they're destroying lives, they're destroying people's ability to earn and take pride in what they do, but earn a paycheck, albeit probably living paycheck to paycheck to try to afford the increasingly higher price cost of living day after day. And then you lose your job, and it's like, even if you could find a job somewhere else, could you afford to commute and add that extra burden on top of everything else? Amazon has not shared how many employees will be staying on with the company. And that is by design, folks, because guess what? There ain't going to be that many.